Excuse me, gentlemen. I'm a stranger in this town. Perhaps you could help me. My name is Dark. I'm looking for two young boys.
Town's full of them.
Yes, no doubt, sir, no doubt. But these boys in particular, they're two of a kind. Much of a height. One tow-headed, the other black as pitch. You could take them for blood brothers.
What have they done?
Done, sir? Why, nothing wrong, surely. Now, they're two lucky lads who won prizes at the carnival. I merely wish to give them the valuable rewards that they so richly deserve.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is another season of the Buena Vista Boys, and we are here breaking down all of the films, the live-action Disney films that were distributed by Buena Vista Pictures. Why? Because we needed a gimmick. And I feel like this was a good one for us to talk about all these live-action movies that the Walt Disney Company has thrown out there over the years. The good, the bad, and the, acceptable, I suppose.
The good, the bad, and the moon pilot.
Yes, that's right. I'm back here with my co-host, Matt. Welcome back, Matt. It's good to see you over the old the Zoom technology. Looking at you through the internet pipes. How you doing, man? How's it been going the past couple months?
It has been going really well. I am so glad to be back. At first, I was like, oh, man, how are we going to pull out another 10 episodes of this? This is wild. But then I saw this year's list of movies, and I got really excited. And then kind of sitting down and getting all the equipment back on, I just couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get going again. So I'm psyched to be back here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Me too. We got our lineup for this coming season here. We got some bangers. I think we took some lessons from season one, and I think we both agreed that we needed a little more, maybe more common household movies to come through. So we have some known movies, not some unknown. We have a couple of those in there. But we have some really good, really nice lineup of movies to talk about, and including this one tonight, which is one I've never seen before, but I hear old heads talk about it all the time. So I was pretty excited about it that we picked it. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Now, usually this would be like a Halloween episode, but we decided to bust it wide open in June, I think, is when this will probably release. I don't know. Because why not? I mean, who cares? You know what I mean? We're adults. We have free will. And let's just watch a scary movie.
I honestly think it's a great one to come out of the gate with because there's lots of history to this movie. It's a very strange film. It's one of those like gambles that Disney and Buena Vista Studios took in the early 80s. That, because they were trying to find that more adult content, right? They were trying to move away from turning, dogs into lawyers and everything.
The kind of like more slapsticky, thing. And this movie was, just from off rip, it was pretty ghoulish and dark and ominous and, definitely setting up for the obvious reveals, and it was, but it was still done really well. It was cast really well. It was acted greatly by most of the people. The effects are pretty good, and I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it. I can't imagine watching this as a child though, or even a preteen. I don't know, even at like a 10 years old. I'd be like, dude, I don't know if I would be scared or just like this is corny. But
the visuals for me were a mix between like pretty good Hollywood stuff for the time. They made some really great choices. Yeah, and a lot of it was sort of like, we're going to show you instead of tell you everything, and you're just going to kind of figure it out. I like that. Yeah. But then some of the visuals came off a little bit like Mr. Boogedy. Like, just like some of the drawn in lightning and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. It's a product of the times, I guess.
For sure.
But it was pretty good. Well, anyway, all the intros aside, welcome back, everybody. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another season of this show. We have a lot of fun doing it. I got a lot of great feedback at the end of season 1, and more than a few emails going, hey, when is season 2? And I go, who are you? And they go, oh, this isn't John from Altadena Dental. And I go, no, this is Jason from the Buena Vista Boys. And they go, oh, I'm sorry, wrong email address. So it was a whole thing, but it was fun to get emails. And that's just, that's it.
It's so nice to hear from our fan.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. So anyway, without further ado, I think we're going to kick it off with Something Wicked This Way Comes. Imagine it. You are a young child in a small town. Life is boring. Your dad is old. And your front door opens directly into a foggy forest beyond. A circus rolls into town, advertising in that age-old way that's common for performers to do, littering. Chaos ensues, and our young hero learns a lesson in life, in friendship, and family. At least that's what it says here. Now, the movie opens with a genuinely creepy music intro. I thought it was a great way to open the intro, with a hint of the Imperial March from Star Wars thrown in for good measure. Did you notice that? Did you catch that?
No, but it's funny that you said it because now I'm going to go back.
I got it right here.
I'm
brother, do you think I would leave you hanging like that? I got it right here.
Yeah, I should have trusted you.
Kinda.
Yeah, because there's a. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This movie came out in 1983, so it would have definitely been everywhere, and a little highly influenced. And I don't know. I thought it was.
All right.
So we open on the shadowy outline of a steam engine billowing out smoke. The credits roll as the steam engine approaches. The headlight is centered on the screen. We blend into the woods during fall when the leaves are changing colors. Large sections of reds and yellows hang in the trees, and our narrator comes on to tell us that it is the month of October. This plays very much to me like A Christmas Story, the classic movie where the narrator is grown up, but he's waxing poetic about his childhood.
Yeah.
We meet the narrator, Will, as a small boy who also kind of looks like Ralphie in more than a passing fashion, by the way. and then he kind of talks like him too. Like just the whole thing, the whole intro, the first 5 minutes, I'm going, okay, Star Wars meets A Christmas Story. I would watch that movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ralphie, your Jedi skills have been improving. Oh, gee, thanks.
I think the Star Wars Holiday Special. All over again. No, but he did. He's this blonde boy with, he's bespeckled. He's waxing about his boyhood, and then he's got an old ass dad.
Yes, exactly. Will and his best friend Jim have been kept behind after class for whispering. And as they're released, they run through their small main street on their way to the library where Will's dad works. After picking up some books, the boys tease one another about their dads, with Will saying Jim's dad never writes letters home and is probably never coming back. To which Jim says, someday. Oh, there we go. One has a broken home.
Yeah.
As the boys are running home, they meet Tom Fury, a lightning rod salesman with a knack for sounding ominous and foreboding. He tells the kids that Jim's house needs protection. Now, this is kind of neat. Like already in the first 5 minutes or so, you sort of meet the weird character who you think is probably going to be the bad guy because he's so weird and off-putting.
His name's Fury. That was kind of like trying to hint at something.
Oh, do you live here about, boys?
These are our houses.
One of which, as I listen to it, has murmuring timbers. Can't you hear it? Who tells you? Tom Fury tells you. Your house is in need of protection.
Which house?
This one.
Yeah, it's his house.
How are your names, gentlemen?
Will Holloway, Jim Nightshade.
Well, Mr. Nightshade, sir, you just go right in and tell your father that Mr. Tom Fury of the Lightning Rods presents his compliments, and your house is in very urgent need of protection.
All right, I'll tell my father that. Jim?
Mr. Tom Fury, who and you can just smell like the rot gut from that scene.
There's aged whiskey in that man's mouth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. Well, of course, we know that Jim's dad isn't around. And so Will goes, you're lying. Why are you lying to this guy? But Jim plays into the fact that he's going to go and run inside and tell his dad everything that Tom Fury is saying. But he's taking money from a tin, like a saved little, piece of money from the kitchen to buy the house a lightning rod. So Jim is already not smart, and he's giving hobos money for iron.
You know what? Well, but what annoys me about Will is it's like Hey, Will, did you want Jim to tell a total stranger, my dad doesn't live here. I live here alone with my spaced out mother. Come in and take all of our things.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Overpower both of us and take all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Come on in, hobo.
And so, Tom Fury, he's a lightning rod salesman. And so he has like a bag of long pieces of wrought iron. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is they could potentially be weapons. I don't know. Here's what's going to happen. So you're absolutely right. Like, let's keep our neighbors safe. And be like, no, I don't really, it's fine. Thanks.
Yeah. It's like, really? So lying in this situation is bad, Will? Okay.
Really,
you
Will?
hate your friend.
Yeah. He buys the lightning rod for the house and the scene is far too long.
Yeah. For like a crumpled dollar or something.
But I'm assuming that everybody in this town knows how to install a lightning rod because Tom Fury sure doesn't give any instructions. There's no instructions with the packaging. It's just, here's a piece of iron. So I have no idea. And this 8 or 10-year-old was like, yes, I know exactly what to do with this. Put it somewhere. We pick up on Will's dad now. He's closing the library where he works, and he's heading to the cigar shop to grab a stogie. 2 things in this scene I loved so much. One, the brass hand that is perpetually holding a flame for people to light their cigars is one of the coolest movie props I have ever seen in my life. And I have some of it in the clip just to remind us all. I loved it. I think it was great.
Yeah. That was so classy. Like, I really did like that too. Just like walk up, give a couple of bucks, be on your way strolling. You don't have to go in the shop or anything. You just kind of like swing by a drive-through Cohiba.
Yes. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. So that's the first thing I loved about this scene. The second thing I loved about this scene is everybody in this town seems to be at their peak horniest. Everybody in here is just thirsty for some kind of female attention. Will's dad has an interaction with the cigar guy and then gets called over next door by the barber.
Do you ever play the numbers, Mr. Holloway?
Me? No, never take risks.
Well, you should, sir. One day I'm going to win that $100,000 number. And it won't be 10-cent cigars first then, Mr. Holloway. It'll be the big imported Havana specials rolled in the plump, smooth thighs of Cuban ladies.
Mr. Holloway. You can't smell it, can you?
Smell what?
Powder, ladies' powder, and perfume. The sweet smell of rustling petticoats. Smells to me like we're gonna have visitors. Elegant visitors. Beautiful ladies.
You'll have to make do with the ladies you got here, Mr. Corsetti. We don't get any visitors in this town. Not in October. Or any other time of the year, come to that.
Do you know what you need, Mr. Holloway? A touch of Corsetti's Color Restorer. Make you feel years younger.
I wish it were that easy.
Right away, you almost get the feeling you're watching a play. Like, it's filmed in 3 dimensions, but every character is such an archetype. And they play them that way, I think, on purpose so that they can contrast what happens to them later. But it's like you have the guy who's like, I'm going to win that $100,000. It's like he's just saying his archetype,
his
right?
Internal
out of his
monologue.
mouth.
Yes, right. Yeah. Oh man, am I a lazy bum? But I could really.
Yeah. Right. I'm this delusional weirdo. And then you got the guy who coming out just go, ladies powder, petticoats. Oh, I'm horny. It's just,
I could presumably there's like a hairdresser's there too, right? Because he's a barber. I can't imagine he does like beehive dues or whatever. Right. And it's just, it seems really weird to me that he's just out of the blue. Like, everyone, I think, well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people have a friend like that where like all they can talk about is girls. All they can talk about, we got to go out. We're going to get we got to look good for the late
chicks, man.
Can you slow down? Like, it's literally Wednesday morning. Like, stop it, dude.
We're having lunch at Chili's, Brian.
We got to
calm down.
We got to go to Hooters. I'm telling you, it's not just because they want tips. They like me there. No, stop. Brian or whatever your name is. It's definitely odd.
Calm down.
From the barber, Will's dad heads over to the bar where the owner is slinging drinks and dreaming about playing football again. Oh, I forgot to mention he's also a double amputee. He has one arm and one leg. So So, yeah, we're setting this town full of dreamers up for some kind of big wish to come true kind of thing. But here's the rest of this.
Oh, Doc, did you see what Northwestern did last week? Northwestern, 20 seconds to go. They got the ball. He faced back for a pass. Touchdown! Wins by 2.
Doc?
Oh.
Charlie?
Do you have any idea what Northwestern's going to do this
Now,
week?
you remember your heart. Just one drink and one cigar.
Oh, come on now. You know what they're going to do? They're going to kill him. That's what they're going to do. Boy, I tell you, I wish I was out there to run, throw, tackle, touchdowns. I mean, there's nothing like it to smell that grass, to run on the field.
What's weird about this scene is, well, okay, where to even start with that, right? So far, everybody's, like you said, playing into the archetype. So Ed, the bartender, has a sweater on, a turtleneck sweater, by the way, with the number 28 on the back. So that was probably his number. It sounds like, he used to play football and he really wants to do it again. So already in the first 2 minutes of meeting these people, we know exactly where everybody is and what they want out of life.
Yeah.
The other part is it's got to be weird to be that actor who is a literal double amputee, right? It's not CGI. It's literally he's, has just 2 limbs. To play a character waxing poetic and yearning to be whole again. You know what I mean? I don't know what that would, I don't know how you would equate that. Maybe like a sober, someone who just got sober playing an alcoholic. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you'd brought that to my attention. So I'm kind of just newly understanding, like, I mean, obviously it looks like they got an actor, at least for the arm, who probably didn't have an arm. Like, I didn't know about the leg specifically, like if they had hid that, but he read the script. He knew what the character was about when he took it. So I'm wondering if he kind of was going through some catharsis with the character.
Could be.
And just going through the role of the wish fulfillment of I wish that I was whole again, and just letting himself go through it.
It could be. I mean, the other thing also is, this is 1983. There's probably not too many acting jobs. And we'll talk about it in the second half where, he was an actor beforehand and then he got in an accident.
Yeah.
And then took some time off and then came back. So I can imagine it's being like a little person in the 80s where all the roles are just, oh, look how little this little person is. What are you, a leprechaun? That kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like I got to do it. I got to pay the bills. I love acting. I'm going to do it. But anyway, we find Jim up on his roof, hammering away at the lightning rod, setting it up before the big storm hits. Everyone keeps talking about a big storm coming in. Jim apparently, like I said, went on the internet maybe, Googled it, went on some BBS board and was like, all right, how do you set up a friggin' lightning rod? Or maybe they taught it to him in school. I have no idea. So he mounts it to the
chimney.
Thank
right?
you. Yes.
He put it on the chimney.
It's been so long since I had a chimney. I forgot what the hell the word was. Will joins him up there, and the two literally catch wind of a carnival coming to town tomorrow. A flyer blows in their faces. And as Will's dad leaves the bar and bundles himself in his coat to protect against the ever-increasing winds, he glances back at a figure tossing papers into the wind. So we see the source of the flyers. It's some strange man clad in black, just literally throwing flyers into the wind, and
it's like evening time, and it's like a guy in like a nice suit and a top hat, just aimlessly. I mean, honestly, you could almost tell the contempt from the way he threw them. Like, he's contemptuously throwing these papers across the town. What a way to advertise.
I know, right? Let's make everybody clean up our advertisements. Ready, go.
But I also thought about this, and it's like, think about having to go to like a print shop, even back then. You're this menacing circus, but you still got to go to Kinko's and get Roy to like print all these things out for you.
Can you have that ready in an hour?
Yeah. I have a lot of menacing to do.
Catching up with Tom, the lightning rod salesman, as he heads down Main Street, we see something catch his eye. It's a coffin in a store window, which is another thing that's really weird. I feel like you don't need to advertise that you sell coffins in a small town because everybody knows when someone dies, we go to Albert, the friggin' coffin man. We don't need to, oh yeah, that's right. Jim's store has coffins too. I'm glad he had that out there. I could save a bundle.
Thank goodness we found it.
As he looks closer, he sees the coffin turn into what looks like a woman encased in a block of ice. A wisp of smoke travels by and pushes the door to the shop open, and of course, Tom enters. As the door closes behind him, the lady in the ice opens her eyes. Hey, officer, the smoke opened the door.
Why is he seeing this specifically? And what does it mean? Because I don't think she's really there. The circus didn't run ahead of everyone and put this lady in ice and set her up in the window real quick.
Yeah, it's just suddenly we're hallucinating, and that, but also not, because the smoke pushed the door open. Although maybe he tricked his brain. I don't know. Stuff like that's kind of weird to me. I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, these ambiguous, like, this ambiguous imagery always like messes with my head, because I'm like, what am I supposed to be taking from this?
Right. Over at the boys' houses, Jim hollers across the yard to Will, informing him that the circus has arrived, gesturing to the approaching train off in the distance. And their houses are kind of cool. They're really close together. There's a big tree in the middle, and both of their bedroom windows face the tree. So they basically face each other, and they can hop across the tree and then go and visit one another. And like, that's kind of the dream, I think, of having a kid best friend and be like, man, I'm just going to hop in the window, just run across or whatever. Like that was neat. I was like, oh man,
I would have loved that.
Oh, good gravy for sure. The boys get dressed and begin racing towards the incoming train, taking a position below the tracks, and as it passes by them, they can see into the engine cabin that there's no conductor on board, which also I thought was really weird. Who knows? Was it 3 a.m, midnight? Who knows? We're going to get dressed and go run and watch the train, but how small of a town are we,
But what I would have thought? I would have been like, okay, well, the train's on tracks. It's not going very fast. Like, maybe the guy is having like a Coke and like a sandwich in the back. Like, it's not like he has to turn left or right. Like, we know where we're going.
It's true.
I wouldn't have been too freaked out about it.
We see car after car pass by, and then a howling sound pierces the air. Red light beams shoot out from the nearby statues because the boys are at the edge of a graveyard. And just like that, the train passes by. They follow the tracks and arrive at the carnival site, only to find everything already set up. Ferris wheels, tents, booths, all of it already lit and ready for guests. And again, I gotta wonder where their sense of danger is. Because if they're in the graveyard and red light starts shooting out of the statues in the graveyard, the last thing I'm going to do is like, hey, let's finish and see where this train's going. And then when I get there, everything's set up. The last thing I'm going to do is, hey, this isn't weird at all. Let's go in.
These things are totally normal, what we're doing.
In this small town.
But yeah, there's also that weird scream that like comes. It's like a weird screeching sound. They cover their ears.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, if you weren't freaked out already by what's going on, it's like that feels like an indicator of some bad mojo.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where this movie sort of lets the audience down a little bit, because there is no pushing them into the plot. They say like when you're making a choice as a screenwriter, when you're making a choice for your characters, they can't ever choose to go into danger. They have to be forced into it.
Yeah.
But they're not forcing anything. They're just going, oh, that was weird. Actually, they're not even addressing that it was weird. They just look at each other and then they go. And they walk in and they go, oh, we're here. So it's like sort of clunky, but it looked neat.
It's like we're here because the script says we're here.
Yeah, the tension was there.
The interesting thing before we move on, though, and we'll discuss it in the second half, is there actually was planned to be a big, awesome scene here. Like, because you mentioned all of the stuff being set up already when they get there.
Yeah.
There was at one point going to be a scene that addressed how it formed so quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. And I wish that they had done it, because it would have been amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It definitely
there were
would've-
some production problems with this movie, and I wish they'd made some better choices.
It definitely would have made things clearer for me.
Yeah, and it would have addressed a little bit more about the in this movie, the magic is somewhat ambiguous.
Yeah.
Like, And that's what I did not like about this. How dangerous, how magical are these actual characters? And this scene would have cemented exactly how much power this carnival has. And I feel it would have been really good to do something to kind of do that.
For sure. So, of course, Will and Jim see, this magical, mystical thing already set up, and they venture forth to explore, walking straight into a wagon whose door mystically and magically opens for them. So it's like, one of those, not even a wagon, necessarily, like a carriage. You think of like an old, like a gypsy carriage, when you're going to like an old timey circus with the big wooden wheels, that and ornate kind of carvings. It's that kind of thing. Where
like the strong man hangs out, or like one of the ladies, one of the fancy ladies.
If you ever seen that show on HBO, Carnival, which is an amazing show, it's that. A figure of a woman in black lace watches as the boys poke around the cabin, wiping dust off a few pictures hanging on the wall. When a tarantula crawls on Jim, they haul ass, screaming as they go. They're done. That's it. That's their red line, is a tarantula. Not red lights or magic or conductorless trains, but a spider.
No.
Yeah. Which
these boys live in Illinois. They've never seen a spider this big.
Right. Now, this is where I kind of got confused. Will's dad arrives home after being at the library working because he was feeling restless. And as he enters, he finds Will sitting on the stairs.
What is this, son? Can't sleep. Yeah. I thought I heard a train. Couldn't be, though. Not this time of night.
No, it couldn't have been. Couldn't be a carnival, could it? Not in October. I mean, you never saw no scraps of paper, did you? Not about any carnival coming.
They call it the soul's midnight.
They talk a little bit, and then Will goes, I'm going to head on. I'm going to avoid this, conversation that you want to have right now. But what I don't understand is why Will didn't just say, oh, yeah, Dad, there's a carnival in town. That was the train that you heard. Why didn't his dad say, hey, yeah, I saw a flyer for that carnival. Did that come into town? Why? I guess Will wasn't announcing it because he was afraid of the spider or whatever. And it was just weird. And I don't know why his dad didn't say, yeah, I saw a flyer. Why are we not talking about it?
Well, yeah, this is one of those things where it's like when you watch this movie, there's a lot of dialogue that you question because people aren't speaking naturally. Like these guys have a couple of different conversations that both feel very dramatic and honestly delve far too deep into the back and forth conversations you would have with your dad.
Yes.
At any age. I know his dad's old and we're beat over the head with it. We got it. You're an old man, but it doesn't mean you can't talk like people. I observed a flyer today, Father.
Right.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah. The printed word flew across the room, Father.
Yeah, it's very weird. This is a very weird conversation. It's like they needed this conversation to steer a direct way.
Yeah.
And they had no time to just have pleasantries in the middle.
Yeah. So, all that being said, the next day, Will and Jim race off back to the carnival, joining what seems to be the rest of the town. There's tons of people riding the rides already and having fun, and Will seems slightly disappointed when he tells Jim, I think, it's nothing but a plain, ordinary old carnival. So I guess they were freaked out, but if they were freaked out, why were they running so fast to get there?
Right.
Jim refuses to believe that it's not magical or mystical or bizarre in any way, shape, or form. He's convinced that there's something weird, but they're staying there. The boys find Ed, the bartender, doing a great job swinging a hammer on the test of strength game. Where you smash the hammer down, the bell pops up, and he's one-handed, right? He smashes the thing, and then the carny gives him his prize, which is a ticket to the magic maze of mirrors. And as he approaches, the mirror in front of the maze shows Ed his reflection, but his arm and his leg are back.
Yeah.
Smiling, Ed heads into the maze and is engulfed in a bright white light. That was nice for him. It was a nice trick too. That's when I had to look up, like, okay, does this guy have two arms or one arm? What is happening here? Like, that just looked kind of too good.
Thank you, because I was going to address that too. It's like, because did they do a pan down and then they probably did a body switch? They had to do some sort of body switch, but they did a great job because it's like the clothes almost didn't change. It's almost just like they just added a leg and arm to that one side. It was pretty flawless.
Yeah, it looked good. Now, as I mentioned, the whole town's here, right? And so the boys run into their teacher on her way out of the mirror maze. She's all in a heap, doesn't know where she is, and as she wanders off, Jim makes a comment about how ugly she is, which is very, very rude, but also not that untrue. Like, this is very handsome is what we would call a very handsome lady.
Yeah, she would have looked really good on a quarter.
That's right. So now we pick up on the barber, and he's getting his palm read by the very same lady who was spying on Jim and Will just last night in the black lace. Yeah. And if you thought the men in this town were lonely, this scene will drive that point home even more.
Your place of work, my good sir, and a red, white, and blue pole turning.
It's a miracle. Your eyes see everything.
Only I think there is something missing from your life. Something that could make you so happy. Ladies. You have lived here a long time without the scent of ladies' skin. They're waiting for you, my good sir. Call them.
Now this man is hunched over this table with a crystal ball in between him and this very beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And he is just sweating and panting. Like that, the sound that you couldn't hear it, I don't know, but it was just like and I'm like, if you don't this, I don't know how this is going to play audio, but because if you don't see the visual, it sounds he's having an intimate moment. It sounds gross. And it looks even weirder, but this man is just, he's ready he's bricked up, dude.
The woman like touching like the middle of his hand was probably just driving him crazy. Like,
yeah, dude.
I typed it in chat. I said, this man is so horny, he should be put on a watch list.
Yes, like, he should be.
Illegally horny. It's crazy.
Now it's the cigar man's turn to get his wish granted. He wins $1,000 at some kind of lottery wheel thing at the carnival, and the barker there pays him out and gives him a Cuban cigar, making note that it was rolled on the plump thighs of Cuban women, just like he was, remarking to Jim's dad about. He also hands him a free ticket to the Ferris wheel, which is where he gets to sit next to a very alluring woman, all the while going on about how it's finally his lucky day.
The exact same woman, which is crazy.
Exact same woman. That's right. She's
from
like,
she literally left the tent with horny guy and ran
and changed,
sprinted over to the Ferris wheel.
Will and Jim are wandering around the carnival and come across a hole in the tent.
Come on, man.
It can't. Jim peers in, and it's apparently the exotic dancing tent. Telling you, not only were the characters in this extremely bricked up, but apparently everybody on the production team were too. Jim is looking through the hole. He's smiling. He's licking his lips while these belly dancers are winding up the men in this town. So all the men are like in front, right? And the belly dancers are going, and like the editing and the cuts are pretty, good. And they're trying to like build the pace, and the music's going, and Jim is just sitting there going,
oh yes.
Okay, man.
Something wicked this way comes.
Yeah. Will, being the wet mop that he is, tries to pull Jim away from a free show. But inside the tent is the barber. And he's being hauled on stage as all the belly dancers circle him. And he begins to laugh and also lose his clothes. Like, man is stripped bare ass naked, and we don't really see like full cheek, but just like his shirt's off suddenly. And I don't really remember if they take it off or he loses it in the cuts and like it's like magically coming off.
But it's almost like he's being stripped like a banana peel. Like
Yeah.
it's like magic is bringing it off.
Which, by the way, if you have been so lonely in this town that you talk to old men about how petticoats smell or sound in the
Literally
wind,
are smelling
there's no
women's
way
shoes in the air.
Yeah, there's no way that your brain can even tolerate half of what's going on in this scene. Like your head would have exploded like scanners. Immediately, once the little tambourine started clapping on their fingers, you're like, I'm done. I can't take it. Two up. So just as things are getting good with the barber, one of the carnival barkers drives the kids away from the tent, and we cut to the Ferris wheel just coming to a stop after the ride. The barker reaches for the hand of a woman sitting in the car, and it's the same woman that the cigar man sat next to, but he is nowhere to be found. Only his cigar remains in the car on the seat, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah.
He disappeared. We don't know what happened. Just his cigar is hanging out right there. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the barker picks it up and starts chomping on it. Which I thought was kind
Why
of cool
waste
too.
it?
Yeah, I know, right? So after a brief encounter with Mr. Dark, who's the owner of the carnival, the kids get curious as to what happens at nighttime when the place closes for the evening. Jim has the brilliant idea to hide underneath a wagon and wait until dark to spy on everybody, which can't end well for either kid.
Yeah.
Night falls, and the boys leave their hiding spot and head towards the carousel tent, where they had previously ran into Mr. Dark. Now there they find Mr. Coogan, who is the big carnival barker, and he's sitting on a horse on the carousel, and the horse starts spinning, or the ride starts spinning backwards. A few special effects later, and the ride stops, and we see Mr. Coogan has been turned into a little boy, but same clothes, just fitting properly. Right?
Like, shrunk down. That's such a great trick.
Yeah. Mr. Dark says it's time for him to go to work, and the kid runs off with our intrepid heroes running after him.
Yeah. Well, in 1930, I think roughly when this takes place, kids did have full-time jobs. We were constantly
That's true.
working those brats. So
yeah, they're calling
He
in
was late for his
Starbucks
shift.
like, "Hey man, I gotta, I'm sick. I gotta look after this kid."
the hell down in the mines.
Their path takes the boys through town, and we see the barbershop has a sign out in front that says closed due to illness. And it was then that I learned that being horny is a disease. I don't know. The boys continue on, arriving at their teacher's house. So remember, they're chasing little Mr. Coogan, baby Coogan.
Yeah. Who put up that sign, by the way?
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, it's probably one of the carnival people. Because presumably the barber has disappeared now. He won't be returning, so we're gonna put the sign up so nobody.
That's what I was wondering,
looking.
because it's his sign. It's the cigar guy's. He has like a on vacation sign, I think, or something like that. And so I was wondering, like, okay, well, who's breaking into these shops and putting these signs up? That's funny. You got like
the Mist,
a couple of carnies just backflipping into town like Batman Returns.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. The boys continue on, arriving at their teacher's house. Two shadows are seen through the window. An adult, presumably Mrs. Foley, the teacher, and that of a small child. So Jim goes up to the door, knocks on the door, and they're like, "Oh, we shouldn't really be doing this." But then it's too late, and the teacher answers the door.
No! No, oh my gosh! Come on!
Land's sakes, who is it? My two little whisperers?
We wanted to see if you were quite all right, Miss Foley.
Yeah, we were kind of worried.
That's very considerate of you boys. I was just a little faint, I guess. Why don't you step inside? Come in, Will, come in. My nephew Robert just arrived, and I've baked a whole batch of cookies. Come in, Robert. I'd like you to meet my young nephew, Robert.
Miss Foley.
Swell. Hi, glad to meet you.
Only it's not Robert. I mean, it might be Robert, but it's Mr. Coogan as a small boy. It's the boy they were chasing. Will and Jim leave, and Mr. Coogan follows them. And then they kind of like have a face-off, and then little Mr. Coogan, tiny Coogan, picks up a stone and throws it through Miss Foley's window. And then he takes off somewhere. He just splits.
Yeah, man.
And Will and Jim get the blame for it. So Miss Foley comes out like, what do you guys, what happened? And then they run off back home. It was very, very weird. Like, why? Like, I don't know.
All the questions. No,
Yeah.
First of all, I love Tiny Coogan. Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you thought of that. And yeah, this woman doesn't know what her nephew looks like. I'm
assuming that she was under a spell, right? She's like hypnotized like everybody else. But then, like, to wonder where he went off to is going to leave her in a state. And presumably Tiny Coogan, left because he'd already been found out. But I don't really think the Carnies care. I don't know. It was just kind of like, it was neat because it was a very creepy scene because the way Tiny Coogan is played is very... Child actors, in my opinion, aren't very good normally anyways. But when you get them at a certain age, like 5 or 6, and they're kind of stoic because they don't know how to do anything, that is perfect for a creepy kid. And that's what this dude, did. I liked it.
Yeah. And he didn't speak a word,
No.
Which is, he got through that scene without saying anything. And he both like exuded like anger, just like pure hatred towards these two kids. But also like he had a face of like, I'm just a dumb kid. I don't know nothing.
Right. Exactly.
It was like he did a great job of kind of doing both.
Yeah. When Jim finally makes it inside his house, he finds his mom dancing with a man. She seems blissfully unaware Jim even existed. It's kind of sad times.
Yeah.
We get a weird heart-to-heart between Will and his dad, and we cut over then to Miss Foley looking at herself in the mirror as she imagines herself to be a younger version of the older lady she is now. She exclaims, "Yes, please," and her wish is granted. She transforms into her younger self. Only, very beautiful girl. But her eyes cloud over for a brief second, or after a brief second, and she realizes that she's blind. She's younger, but now she's blind. Which, honestly, hell yeah, dude. I would rather be younger and blind. You know what I mean? There's Braille, there's
she'll
music.
make her way in the world. Don't worry.
Yeah, dude. So she crawls around on the floor yelling for help and runs into the young Mr. Coogan, who just looks down at her and smiles. So we pick the boys up as Will is chasing Jim across a field. Will figures out that Jim is heading back to the carousel to make himself older. And as they run on, dark storm clouds swirl over the carnival tents. Arriving at the carousel tent, they crawl under it to find Mr. Dark grilling our old weirdo Tom Fury, who's strapped to an electric chair kind of looking thing. Where did these two meet?
Yeah.
What happened?
This feels like a missing scene.
Yeah.
About how they even picked him up. Where has he? Because it's been over a day. Where has Tom Fury been sleeping? Just in a pile of hay somewhere?
You know what? I hope that for him. I wish that for him. It sounds comfortable as hell.
But yeah, not only do they have like an electric chair that they just had sitting around, as you do.
Yes.
But they picked him up for some reason because they wanted to grill him about when the storm is coming. Like somehow he knows.
He knows, man. Over on the right, Jim points out some strangely familiar figures. It's the missing shopkeepers that we've seen on Main Street, only they're different. Mr. Dark has transformed the barber into the bearded lady, which I thought was very funny. It's a very apropos thing.
Yeah, that's wild.
He wanted to be near ladies. He is one now.
Yeah.
And the cigar man is turned into a living wooden cigar shop Indian, which I feel like doesn't really fit. He didn't want to be a cigar shop Indian.
Yeah, because his thing was money, right? He was about making money. Like, shouldn't he be like Uncle Pennybags from Monopoly?
Sure.
It existed then.
Yeah, man. Miss Foley is there too, looking all young and blind, but still young. Mr. Dark presses Tom.
So sensitive.
Mr. Dark presses Tom Fury about when the lightning will come, offering to show him his bride in exchange for the information. A figure steps forward, breaking out of animated ice, I think. And it's the psychic from before, the one in black lace, only this time she's in a wedding gown. And let me tell you, Tom and I had the same exact reaction. The director wanted a hyper beautiful and exotic looking woman for this role, and they got one. And I literally wrote, wow, she's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Dark keeps drilling on Tom. They exchange some poetry about how the lightning will fry them all, and Mr. Dark throws a switch and begins to electrocute Tom. Will stands up and tells Dark to stop. And as he does, the bride spins around and we see her face change to that of a wrinkled ghoul. The boys flip out and split, running home. Dark takes the hands of the woman, sending a green fog to chase after the boys.
Yep.
So he's farting at them, basically.
Just absolutely the truest thing ever. Like the hottest women just have a ghoul inside of them.
That's true, man. Yeah. Again, this is a movie with zero regard for telling us what time it is. Will is standing in his kitchen being yelled at by his mom, who says it's Jim's fault that Will snuck out so late at night. But they're just up anyway, like she's folding laundry and his dad's drinking coffee. So what time friggin' is it?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's between 9 p.m. and about 4 a.m.
Right. Will's dad follows him upstairs and they have another one of their seriously weird and thoroughly veiled conversations.
You know, I never liked my father either a lot of the time.
Was Grandpa a good man?
Everyone thought so.
He knew about evil.
Sure talked a lot about it.
Really knew?
We had devils for breakfast, lunch, and supper in our house.
I believe in devils. But if you're a good person, they can't hurt you, can they? Am I a good person?
I wouldn't count on your mother's answer right now, but I think you are. Yeah? Drink your milk, then. Maybe we'll talk tomorrow.
Dad?
Hmm?
Be careful, Dad. Something's going on.
And I like his kid's worrying about if he's good or not, and he just gets a pat on the arm. I think you are. Pat, pat, pat. But yeah, there's definitely something. The kid's concerned, you know, and the dad's like, yeah, I don't know, man, whatever.
Sounds
dude.
great.
I'm too
but
tired. I'm
sleep.
I'm toast.
I like this. I love the. I've never had a conversation with my child going to bed about like, hey, is Grandpa a good man? I believe in devils, Dad. Like it's usually like, hey, do you think Godzilla could take King Kong? And I'm like, yeah, probably. He's a big lizard. And he goes, yeah, but King Kong, you got those big fists.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, man, go to bed.
Yeah, I'm sitting there actually this morning talking to Alice about she's not putting things away. So I'm like, well, you know, how should we, you know, figure it out or whatever? And she looks at me and she goes, Dad, yes, honey. Why are there flags in soccer? I'll tell you. Let's finish this conversation, honey. Okay, sure. Right. It's like, oh, dude.
Yeah. No, I don't get anything this sort of dark and poignant when I put my kids in bed.
And I think this is part of the problem that Hollywood I think still has to a certain extent is that nobody knows how to write for kids. They think that they do, but they truly don't.
Yeah,
I think Goonies was the last truly great kid written for kids thing. Like I don't know. Kids are hard to write for too.
Well, yeah, because they're so random. Like they make these connections that you don't make to things that make sense to them because if you followed the string all the way back,
yeah,
like it sounds random to you, but they can produce a red string that takes you all the way back to why they said that thing. Well, like how you get from spaghetti all the way to Transformers, you know?
Right. Well, and what I'm learning now or still trying to struggle with, I guess, is like kids, they don't have that like frontal cortex developed. So they don't understand context. Everything is really cut and dry. And they will also at the same time read into stuff. And so you see kids reacting in movies are like, no, that reaction is too based on what's happening. There needs to be like a deeper, but also nuanced. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That is one of the hard things. I think a lot of people who write now are just people who like don't have kids or they're around kids.
You know,
like,
I'll tell you what. Here's the thing that pisses me off.
Because their friends have a kid.
Here's the thing that pisses me off about movies and TV shows writing for parents or households with children. The countertops are clean. There's not a bunch of crap on the countertops. And it to the point where it skews my wife specifically. It skews her interpretation of what a house with kids should look like. Because she's like, but what if someone comes over? First of all, nobody comes over unannounced. That happens in Friends. That doesn't happen in real life. But second of all, I don't care. We live here. Our mail goes here. What do you want? But it's just,
I hear that.
You never see it. You never see it. House with 3 kids, spotless counters. There's no toaster anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Come on.
Or and then the worst thing is that the kids like spill Cheerios in this car.
Mm-hmm.
There's not you never see the inside of somebody's car, and it's not only is it Cheerios, but it's an old moldy apple. It's 5 action figures they didn't bring inside. It's a coat smashed into the floorboards.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
never, dude. So Jim goes to bed after drinking his milk, but he's woken up shortly by a staticky sort of electrical jolt that's auditory. It's not physical. We cut to Will, who wakes up at the same time. The 2 boys, at the same time, again, look out both of their windows at each other, and they see a swirling green mist floating towards them, with Will taking the lead, walking across the roof and heading over to Jim's room. They cower on the floor when suddenly the roof begins to crack and break apart. And as does my reality, because these boys are suddenly, in this scene, about 3 years older than they were just 10 seconds ago. And I know we'll get to that afterwards.
Yes.
But that was these 2 boys scream, and it's oh! So
yeah,
bad.
it's part of the magic was to put each of them in bad wigs.
Yeah, it was awful,
and elongate their chins.
The window cracks, and the room is covered in tarantulas. They're trapped. They can't leave. It goes on for about 45 seconds too long, but there is one moment in this scene that I really liked, and I'll play it in a second. And that's when Jim is fighting off the spiders. He's beating them with a pillow and, all he's doing. And Will is just sitting in the corner of the bed. We have a medium shot on his face just zoned out, and the camera starts a slow pullback while the soundtrack hits with these crazy sting explosions, and we see the covers move, and he throws the covers off, and there's a bunch of tarantulas, and he screams and wakes up. But I thought it was just really good filmmaking at that time. This kid, he has a friggin' mustache, dude.
Yeah, there's nothing like Will in this spider scene with his it's like they went and they found a blonde wig and then they chopped it up into a bowl cut as best they could. And it still looks like silky plastic. And especially when he's supposed to be sweating, he's just that head of sweat.
Well, what's interesting is that they do close-ups. They don't have to be this close to this young man.
Yeah.
I mean, he is 4 years older, and
Absolutely.
they could have just pulled away. I don't know, whatever.
No, he's playing JV basketball now. It's
for sure.
He's definitely not 12.
The boys scream and wake up, both in their beds, in their own rooms. Did it actually happen? Probably not, but pretty scary, I suppose. The next scene starts and the boys are in church. Once again, back into their younger forms. Though I'm not sure why, because nothing happens in this scene and we're pushed into the town watching a parade of all the carnival workers as they saunter down Main Street, trying their best not to look like they are secretly in search of Will and Jim, which they are, because those are the boys who only know their secret. They know something's going on. After an awkward and scary confrontation between Will's dad and Mr. Dark, Will's dad tells Will and Jim to meet him at the library, now fully convinced something is not right in their little town. And it's here that the boys break it down for Will's dad, safe inside the library.
That's why they had the parade. So they could find us and kill us. And so, we had to hide because, well, who'd believe us?
I believe you.
You do? But we're not grown-ups.
That's why I believe you. Listen to this. Diary of my father, Charles Herbert Halloway, minister of this town. October 1891. We have had no good fortunes since there arrived here the autumn carnival. It seems strange to speak of such things in these enlightened days. A poor lame servant girl went to the fortune teller to inquire how she might run, her leg mended. and then she ran mad.
So we got some little backstory, little history. His dad ran into these people before. Now, the doors to the library open and close on their own, causing the kids to go hide because, okay, well, someone's coming after us, right? Mr. Dark appears to Will's dad, and the two begin to recite poetry to one another in some battle of the quill and parchment. Will's dad stands up and confronts Mr. Dark about what is going on in this here town.
I know who you are. You are the Autumn people. Where do you come from? The dust. Where do you go to? The grave.
Yes. We are the hungry ones. Your torments call us like dogs in the night. And we do feed. And feed well.
You stuff yourselves on other people's nightmares.
And butter our plain bread with delicious pain. So, you do understand a little.
You are known in this town. My father knew you.
Your father, the preacher, that half-man.
He lived on goodness.
Tasteless fare, funerals, bad marriages, lost loves, lonely beds. That is our diet. We suck that misery and find it sweet. We search for more, always.
So many delights to show you. It was very Cenobite-y.
So as Mr. Dark tries to bribe Will's dad with promises of being younger if he just gave up where the kids were, Will decides this was a fair time to scream, "No, Dad, don't listen!" Despite the fact that his dad wasn't even breaking a sweat. Like, he would have been just fine not to call out. Like, his dad was not going to turn and go, "Oh, yeah, that would be cool to be younger with no child. That'd be sick, dude."
Bro, I take great offense at this scene. I was pissed when he started like naming like ages of men and what they should be accomplishing at the time. And he specifically says 40. Old. Just broken down. Like, come on,
we all
man.
can't be
Damn.
demons from another dimension or something. You know what I mean? Some of us are just dudes.
Shit, dude. But just 40.
Oh.
Old.
Also,
God.
Will and Jim decided to hide on bookshelves, but also behind books at the same time somehow. They were very clever.
Yeah, I noticed that,
Weird,
right?
Man. Weird placement.
They were like, what is that? Interstellar. They were inside the bookshelf.
Mr. Dark continues to taunt Will's dad, eventually giving up and just going to look for the kids by himself again. Slowly, he stalks them throughout the shelving until he sneaks up and grabs them both by their collars. Eventually, this all builds to a head back at the carnival. Well, Will's dad enters the maze of mirrors and is shown the power that Dark has to grant even the most basic of dreams to the people of the town. We see the barber and the cigar man, the teacher, and then a flashback to a moment that has popped up here and there, the story about how Will was being carried away by a river current. But since his dad didn't know how to swim, he was unable to save his son and had to let Jim's dad do it. Well, Will's dad isn't one to stand for two mistakes in one lifetime, and as Dark is showing this flashback, Will's dad shoves his fist through the mirror, breaking the glass and reaches into the image, grabbing the drowning boy's hand and pulling him out of the water and back into the maze with him. So he couldn't save his son. It was the burden he was carrying for some reason. Look, we all need help, dude. You know, we all need help sometime. But he was able to.
Jim's drunk dad did
he was able to break the wall.
Yeah. Mr. Hank or Henry Nightshade or whatever
gone.
Just had been swilling alcohol all day. He jumped in and did his dad's job, or did the dad's job.
We cut to the skies above the carnival where the clouds are dark and lightning strikes. Then we find Tommy still strapped to the chair. The lightning hits the chair and he's able to break free somehow, and he has a lightsaber in his hand. No. It's one of his very own lightning rods, glowing green. How did he get that?
My man just charged it up.
It's like he managed to get his thing, and that's great. He runs off screen and again somehow ends up in the mirror maze where he runs at the lady in white, driving the rod into her midsection. She evaporates in a shower of lightning and glass shards, and as we get brought into the carousel tent where Dark is promising Jim that he can be the king of the carnival. As the carousel turns, Will's dad runs up and snags Jim off the ride, leaving Dark alone, spinning by himself. Just then, a lightning bolt strikes the tent, shorting out the ride and sending lightning bolts across the ride and into Mr. Dark. And as he's being turned into beef jerky, Will and Jim, along with Will's dad, flee the tent into the rain and wind. The horses of the carousel, at least some of them, turn real and stampede out of the tent. And I think one of the horses is holding Mr. Dark in place there at the floor of the ride.
Yeah, it's like the arm kind of comes down and it almost, you get the sense that it's like pressing him in so he can't leave.
And so the ride is moving forward because Jim, was it Jim or Will? I forget now.
Yeah, so it was Jim was going to become older, so it was already in the forward motion. And then, the lightning hitting it shorted the controls and made it go faster. And so he's sort of drinking from the wrong cup in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He's so spoiling.
Eventually, the ride stops and the skeleton of Mr. Dark rolls off the platform. The great wind becomes a tornado, sucking the carnival up into its speedy vortex and off of the face of the planet for good. Unsure of what happened to the folks that worked for it or the ones that were transformed, like the barber and such, everything's just gone. Like nobody knows what happened.
Yeah.
Our three heroes run home as the dawn breaks and the skies are turning blue. Laughing, they race toward the barbershop pole there on Main Street, and as they walk home, our faithful narrator returns to close us out.
Hey, Chai!
For my father, being old was all right now. He had freed himself from the shadows and liberated our town. So I think he knew on that bright morning that he'd made a memory that would live as long as sons tell sons about fathers they love.
And that's the end, folks. That is the end of Something Wicked This Way Comes. But what strikes me, about this, the ending there, is that the boys didn't really do anything. And Will's dad didn't really do anything. The person who did the most was Tom Fury, who took the lightning rod and jammed it into the abdomen of the beautiful woman and broke them. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was, to me, that was the catalyst for what happened. And so everything else just felt needless.
Yeah.
His dad didn't liberate the town. It was the old drunk guy selling wrought iron things.
Yeah, this complete stranger to the carnival, and yet very well known by Mr. Dark somehow. Freed everyone from this this crazy dust loving carnival cult. Man. I don't know, this pain eating cosmic carnival. Yeah, it was really weird.
It was odd, man. It was odd. So that's it, everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and we're going to dig into Matt's version of, well, not Matt's version, but we're going to dig into all the fun facts and stuff like that Matt has found out about this movie. And apparently it was a big mess. And that explains a lot about why it was also a big mess to watch. So hang on, everyone. We'll be right back. It's the Buena Vista Boys.
Sometimes a man can learn more from other men's dreams than he can from his own. Come visit me, sir, if you would wish to improve your education.
I will. And I may improve yours.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for sticking around. All right, Matt, let's get into the backstory behind Something Wicked This Way Comes, please.
This is called, by the Googling with my thumbs, Something Epic This Way Comes.
Nice.
Based on the 1962 Ray Bradbury novel of the same name, Something Wicked This Way Comes was released April 29th, one day before my birthday, 1983. So I'd have been 3 years old when this came out. And it stars Jonathan Pryce as Mr. Dark, Jason Robard as Charles Holloway, Pam Grier as the Dust Witch. What an interesting name. The Dust Witch. I never would have guessed in a million years.
The beautiful witchy, lady we've been talking about. And I didn't know until I saw the credits today, pulling clips, that was Pam Grier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, Pam Grier has been a good looking forever. But yeah, she was very young in this, so
calm down. That's what you're saying.
and she also had like a lot of veils on all the time, That's true, I guess. So, and then I love Diane Ladd plays Mrs. Nightshade, and she doesn't get a lot of screen time, but the time she does have, she just, for a woman who's such a great actress, she did a really good job of playing sort of like this out to lunch, can't do anything, can't think for herself kind of lady of the early 1900s.
Those were weird choices for sure.
Yeah. But then Vidal Peterson plays Will Holloway and Sean Carson plays Jim Nightshade. Two people who I am very unfamiliar with. I'm not sure how much more work either of these guys have done. Yeah. Quick internet movie database would have told me, but I did not care. Yeah. So as a lot of these movies from from the 80s, especially like these kind of Disney movies, the budget was $20 million, but the box office take for this movie was only $8.4 million.
Oh, that's rough, dude. Yeah.
We hate to see it, folks. But, when you watch the movie, I feel like it kind of explains exactly what happened. This film suffers from almost over a year's worth of production turmoil and more studio tampering than David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
Timely.
So it seems like a lot of people were excited to make this movie and then they just never did it. Like, the history of this is very interesting. So the book itself, which I don't want to go too much into the book, we're talking about the movie, but it's interesting to know that before the book was even written in 62, it was being thought of, I think, as early as the 1940s, because Ray Bradbury already wanted to adapt a short story that he had for Gene Kelly to direct this movie of Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's hard to explain, but it's like he hadn't written the novel yet. He had a short story that he wrote
in the 40s.
And in the 40s. Okay. In I think 1948, something like that is when the short story came out. And so I think by the 1950s, he wanted to write a screenplay based on the short story and have Gene Kelly, yes, that Gene Kelly, who he was friends with. You know how you're all friends with famous dancers?
Oh, yeah, for sure, dude.
Direct a movie based off the screenplay he was going to write. And so that was fascinating to me already and that's how the book came out. The book came around because he wrote this 80-page treatment for a screenplay, and then it didn't go anywhere. So he turned it into a novel.
Nice.
Wild. And then in 1971, Ray Bradbury agreed to write a new screenplay based on his novel that he had written, teaming up with director Jack Clayton, who they'd previously worked together on Moby Dick. Fast forward to 1973, and suddenly Sam Peckinpah, yes, the Wild Bunch, Sam Peckinpah, was interested in directing this movie as well. So, we got already two directors in the span of 2 years. Two different directors all of a sudden want to get in on this hot property outside of Gene Kelly, bringing our actual count up to 3 at this point. And still nothing done, nothing written. Jump ahead 3 more years, 1976, and Jack Clayton is back in the director's chairs. This time the project is under the Bryna Company. It's a production house that was started by none other than Kirk Douglas.
Jeez.
So I know. So now you have the guy who directed Moby Dick working for a company that is owned by Kirk Douglas, right? Douglas had met Bradbury in a bookstore in LA, got intrigued, and wanted to star in the movie himself. His son, Peter Douglas, signed on as a producer, along with Robert Chartoff and Irwin Winkler. Paramount Pictures even agreed to back the $6 million production, which was supposed to be shot on location in Texas, which is crazy because everything takes place in Illinois. And I'm interested to see how close they could, if they were either going to pick everything up and move it out of Greentown, Illinois, or if they were going to try to pass off Texas as Illinois.
Yeah.
There's very different places. But it never happened. Never happened, folks. Despite the support from Paramount's feature division president, David V. Picker, the studio CEO, Barry Diller, shut it down. Directors like Mark Rydell and even Steven Spielberg were reportedly interested at different points.
God, I wonder why.
I don't know. It's the movie and the property itself almost has this weird allure to it that multiple famous people wanted to pick up this property. And why?
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's might be one of those things where it's just been on the market for too long. And people are like, there's something, it's when you're buying a house or buying a car. Things been on sale for, 150 days. Like, there's something weird going on in the bones. I don't want to.
Yeah. And I think that's why we get to where we end up getting to. I think you're right. I think this script gets shopped so much that after a while you're like, oh yeah, that's that script they've been shopping for 4 years. No, thanks. No one's picked it up. So I'm not going to be the one to start.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So at this point, there is nothing moving forward. All right. Paramount doesn't want it. All these people aren't picking it up. Then in 1981, Disney comes into the picture. At the time, Disney was trying to break out of its family-only image, which is hilarious when we get to the end of this and we get into what a giant mess this was. Just remember, folks, they were trying to buy properties that were not family-oriented. They wanted to take more of a mature direction with a lot of their movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So and we talked about that on the show before, that there's movies that they were lamenting. We can't make this movie, but we really would love to.
Yeah.
I think it's why they made like Touchstone Pictures and other things like that.
Yeah.
But they brought the film rights, or they bought the film rights of Something Wicked This Way Comes and gave it a healthy $16 million budget. So that's interesting to me.
Yes.
Because they gave it $10 million more than they were originally going to give it.
Then Paramount was going to give it.
And they didn't even have Sam Peckinpah. Bradbury was brought in to help pick the cast and director, and he pushed for Clayton again. So his buddy that he'd been working on, at this point, 10 years ago, he wanted Clayton for this project.
Okay.
Still does.
Yeah.
He still believed in their past creative chemistry. So that's kind of amazing to me that he got to pick the director for this work. It's a decade old script idea, and he still kind of has this pull that the writer of the script gets to pick the director.
Well, I think so. Well, look, you're Ray Bradbury at this point. You know what I mean? And I bet that's a contract thing. Like, you can't buy it unless I have
suppose
choice,
so.
But also, yeah. I think there was maybe much more of a reverence for certain people. I don't think that would fly now.
Yeah, no, because I was talking with Andy about that in one of the shows we were doing, and it's very custom to have like a writer come in and, do an original treatment and write a couple of pieces. And then the director just kicks them out.
Yeah.
And he's like, thanks for the script. Appreciate it. But you are not going to be here every step of the way making all of these decisions for this script.
Yeah.
Like, this is my movie. I'm the director. And so, it is amazing that he was able to have that kind of power, like early on, literally to pick the director he wanted.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Peter Douglas came back as a producer, but Kirk Douglas did not come back at this point. He did not kind of fit what they were going for.
Okay.
Now, Bradbury had his dream picks for the sinister Mr. Dark. He had named Peter O'Toole.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been dope. And Christopher Lee.
Oh, another one. Yes.
Yeah. Right? That would have been really awesome. But to keep costs down, Disney. Disney went with Jonathan Pryce, who at the time was still a very fresh face.
Fantastic casting.
He really saved that movie Filming officially kicked off September 28th, 1981, and ran for 77 days. Most of it was shot at Disney's Golden Oaks Ranch in Newhall, California. Oh, baby, yeah. The Apple Dumpling Gang, The Treasure from Matacumbe, The Parent Trap, all the classics.
Did something about foot.
Hot Lead Cold Feet.
There you go.
Yeah. Hot Lead Cold Feet was filmed on location in the same spot. All the classics. Shooting on location was just too pricey.
Pricey.
Right?
By the way, he's been knighted. So it is Sir Jonathan Pryce. Thank you very much.
Yes. I'm sorry. I will put that name in my mouth. I actually
put some spec on his name, please.
In my notes, I have that down below. I have when he was knighted.
All right.
Sorry, I was being cheeky and not giving him his full due.
You weren't giving him his flowers, man. I don't appreciate that.
They did a few exterior shots in Vermont, but basically everything was done in that Golden Oaks Ranch for the most part. As filming went on, creative tensions started to build. Bradbury and Clayton wanted to stay loyal to the novel, but Disney was pushing for something more kid-friendly. That tension came to a head when Bradbury found out the studio had secretly brought in John Mortimer to do some uncredited rewrites on his script.
Oof.
God, that would piss me off so much.
Oh, yeah.
But also, isn't this fascinating? Already Disney's creeping in and going, can we make this a little family friendly? We knew what we bought.
And let's not tell anybody. We don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
Raymond. They probably, instead of wanting just to deal with him saying no or whatever, or convincing him to say yes, they probably had legal look over the contract and say, do we legally owe this man a phone call or his permission? Nope. Okay, we're just going to go do it. Then we're not going to tell him.
Right. Yeah. They bought probably options, like alteration options.
Yeah.
With the property.
Crazy.
So yeah, and it's already, this is kind of pissing me off because this is sort of what ends up happening to take this movie a little bit off the rails and why it's kind of as clunky as it is, because they bought this property knowing damn well what they had. They knew what they had when they bought it, and they bought it specifically because it was more mature. And now all of a sudden they're 77 days into this shooting and they're like, oh, we got to kind of kid this up a little bit. It's just like, come on, man, pick your path.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, that move caused a serious rift between him and Clayton. In the editing room, things got even messier. The original editor, Argyle Nelson Jr., props to that name.
Yeah, twice.
Was let go due to budget cuts. Barry Gordon, the assistant editor, considered walking off too, but Nelson told him to stick around. Gordon stayed and ended up editing the final version of the movie. That's why the film has a dual editing credit. Gordon recalled in 2012 that once Clayton turned in his original cut, Disney freaked out over the length, pacing, and overall commercial vibe. They took the film away from Clayton and they launched a 6-month-long re-edit and reshoot campaign that added another $4 million to the budget. That's where we get our $20 million at the end of it.
And that's all with Barry Gordon?
Yeah, so Barry Gordon, I believe, is the one who was re-editing all of this stuff.
Yeah. So I looked up his IMDb credits.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the movie Gotcha in 1985.
Yeah, got you where I want you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he edited that.
Yeah.
He had the TV movie called The Burning Bed. Hot Moves, which is like some raucous summer flick.
Nice.
Victory, and then When Time Ran Out, and then 3 episodes of Cagney and Lacey. That's it. He did not have a Hollywood career, which is very funny, where it's like Disney gave him the reins for this, and he's like, yeah, I salvaged something, but I can't do anything with that, maneuvering.
Yeah, I mean, he was an assistant. He was, I don't even know how fresh he was as an assistant, and they just hired the original guy.
Yeah.
And said, here, you figure this one out, assistant. It's like, all of a sudden, this movie that they poured all this money into, that they really had been like wanting to make, they're just like, yeah, just have anybody edit it. Who cares?
Well, you know what? I wonder, it's just looking at it and again, derailing everything, is I wonder if he's just one of those fixer guys, because after this movie came out, he is still credited as an assistant editor in 2 other movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, was he that brand new? I mean, look, we'll never know. So I don't know why I'm like, even getting into it. But it's very interesting to me that, like, you're still assistant editor 3 years after your Disney movie, came out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that in the middle of a movie that you've already sunk like $16 million into, you're like, I can't continue to pay the editor till the project's over.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I can't. It can't be budget cuts. It has to be something else.
Yeah,
it can't be like, oh yeah, we're the person who makes the movie. Like they say, a good editor will save a movie. It will make or break a movie.
That's how Star Wars was made.
So yeah, it's like it's that's incredible to me. But whatever. Go ahead.
I mean, budget cuts is what was cited. Do we know what actually happened?
That's what I'm saying. I would bet money that it wasn't just like, we can't afford to pay you, pal.
Yeah, that's wild. Checks are just bouncing all over the place. Sorry,
Right.
got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But so, they went into this long reshoot, and that is exactly why you have the kids get older in that scene, that terrible cover up of like the bad wigs and like the long basketball bodies that these kids now have.
Yeah.
So, by the way, this reshoot included a number of changes to Clayton and Nelson's original cut, removing several major special effects scenes and incorporating the new material directed by visual effects artist Lee Dyer, including a new prologue narrated by Arthur Hill. So that wasn't original. That was something they tacked on. And among the casualties was a groundbreaking animation scene that would have been one of the first major uses of computer-generated imaging in Hollywood, combining the then new technology of CGI with traditional animation. It depicts Dark's circus train rolling into town and the carnival magically materializing.
Damn.
Smoke from the locomotive becomes ropes and tents. Tree limbs merge to form a Ferris wheel and a spider web morphing into the Wheel of Fortune. Oh my God, that would have been so dope.
Yeah, it would have been awesome, man.
Yeah, and again, that would have established what we really needed to know about the level of power these guys have.
Yeah, for sure.
The deleted scene was previewed in detail in the May-June 1983 issue of Twilight Zone magazine, but the re-edit retained only a few seconds of the sequence. And I couldn't tell you what they were. Like, he says a few seconds of the sequence. I didn't see anything that matches any of this really in that opening scene. So I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe the angel statues.
You know what? I think maybe like when the kids come up on the carnival, maybe there's a little smoke or something,
Yeah.
That's like the tail end of that effect.
Nothing this dope.
Yeah.
Okay. So another scene that was cut, and this is the interesting part, is that why they cut this certain scene and then they replaced it with spiders. There's another cut sequence depicting Mr. Dark using his sinister powers to send a huge disembodied hand to reach into the house to grab the boys. So Disney's executives felt that the mechanical effect wasn't realistic enough. This is very similar to why they cut the octopus from Goonies. Right? And why they still mention it at the end. So the octopus didn't look real at all. So they cut it. So this is very similar. They have this giant hand that's going to try to go in and grab these boys, and it wasn't realistic enough. So they reshot that entire scene and replaced the scene with a room invaded by tarantulas.
I mean, it looked realistic. It was a good effect.
I mean, yeah, they were real tarantulas.
Yeah.
Apparently those hairs were really annoying. Like those hairs got under those kids' skin.
Oh God, dude.
And I can imagine. It became incredibly painful.
I feel like, if we're cutting the movie, right? And someone goes, yeah, that hand just looks kind of lame, dude. I don't know. Well, what can we do? Let's get the kids back. Let's get them back from boarding school, from college, and put wigs on them. I would rather have a disembodied hand that doesn't look quite real than a 58-year-old man playing a 14-year-old boy. Like, I just can't. It doesn't make it. They traded one unrealistic visual effect for another.
Yeah, it was incredibly jarring.
Yeah, it is. Exactly, yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they know that the movie like King Kong existed, right? This big stop motion ape that like
I was thinking I could do this effect now, you know?
Yeah.
It's just
that's what I'm saying. It's okay if effects are really cool and they can kind of age like milk. Like
Yeah.
if as long as the intensity is there. And yeah, this is just they just turned a scene into like I'm not that scared of tarantulas. So that doesn't really bother me.
Same.
And the boys being so much older takes it. I'm taken out. I'm like, I don't feel the movie's vibe anymore.
No, it's weird, man.
So yeah, I think they just should have kept the hand.
Agreed.
So all those changes meant the original Christmas 1982 release date was pushed back 5 months. Disney was had invested heavily into reshaping the film into something more marketable, and Something This Way Comes finally hit theaters in 1983. So doesn't stop there.
Wow.
Did you think that was the worst of it? No.
Oh, sure.
No. As for the music for the movie, which we agree is pretty rad.
Yes.
Clayton wanted George. I'm sorry. I have to say Georges Duler.
Okay. You did good.
I practiced this, folks, and I still ate dirt on it.
He did great.
He's a French composer with over 400 movies composed. So this guy actually has mad props. Like he has a backlist, a lot of French movies, but he did Platoon. He did the movie Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Like I said, lots of French movies, but my man has earned his stripes. He wanted this gentleman to compose, and they worked together on some other movies. But Disney decided that Deleuze's music was just far too dark. Right. Far too dark for a movie about a carnival that comes to town and feeds on people's pain. So they scrapped the entire thing. And then, so at the last minute, they scrapped it. So it's the thing about, they have a score for this entire movie.
Okay.
And then they brought in James Horner instead to rescore this entire movie. And James Horner is an amazing composer. He's done Avatar, Titanic, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Roger Rabbit's Tummy Troubles, Captain EO,
Sheesh,
and The Rocketeer. So he's no slouch to Disney for sure. And I didn't know this, but he composed the music for one of my favorite movies, Vibes. Did you ever see that? It's
no, it sounds like a millennial mess.
No, it's so much better. It's Jeff Goldblum and Cyndi Lauper.
Okay.
And they're both psychics. And they get taken hostage to go find this giant like Incan pyramid that is filled with all of this crazy alien power.
That sounds
like
great.
It's amazing. He touches things and he can know like their history.
Okay.
And she's a psychic medium. It's got Columbo in it. He's amazing as a character named Harry.
All right.
Very
Sounds good.
Vibes is dope.
Love it.
But for music nerds out there, the original score was actually put out in 2015 by Entrada Records. So if you really need to go hear this, you can go pick it up.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
I hope someone does.
Right? Or I just need to hear that Delure composition. Fun fact is I thought this is interesting. If you needed anything more ass backwards, Sean Carson, who ended up playing Jim Nightshade, originally auditioned for the role of Will. But at Bradbury's request, he switched roles. Twist, Carson had blonde hair, and Will's the actor who played Will, Vidal Peterson, had dark hair. So Disney flipped things. Carson's hair was dyed jet black, and Peterson's was bleached blonde.
Damn, dude. Disney really went for it, man.
Just talk about doing everything the hard way, just the hardest way possible.
Because in the movie, Jason Robards, he's gray. He has gray hair.
Yeah.
So we're never going to go, hey, wait a minute. The parent doesn't match. Yeah.
Well, no. And here's the crazy thing is they say early on in the movie that Will and Jim were born 1 minute apart on Halloween. and that they are spitting images of each other. So
Okay.
literally, it would not have mattered to switch actors and just have them the way they were and have each one play the character, because they're supposed to even look alike.
Which they don't.
So just have the actor who already has dark hair just be the wuss who wears glasses. It's like, why do you make everything so goddamn hard for this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Starts to make you angry. Makes a 40-year-old man's blood boil. So, Mr. Dark, Jonathan Pryce, now Sir Jonathan Pryce.
There you go.
He was honored with a knighthood for his service in drama in 2021. And the funny thing is, we were talking about selling, lightning rods door to door.
Mm-hmm.
When he was attending the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, he worked as a door-to-door salesman selling velvet paintings.
All class. See, all class. All class all the time. You can sell brushes, vacuums. No, I'm selling velvet paintings.
Right?
I would love to know his sales pitch.
Well, I'm sure he just went, my lovely lady, your house, I see, is not adorned with a velvet, with a velvet painting of the excellence and quality that you express. So, Charles Holloway, because you guys didn't think I would find more than a reference to Twilight Zone magazine.
Oh, sure.
Scoff in your face. Charles Holloway, played by the pure goat, Jason Robards. My man has 2 Academy Awards, a Tony, and an Emmy. And this guy has done everything. They're never in a Twilight Zone episode himself. Robart was in season 7, episode 39 of the 1955 show Studio One. You know that old chestnut Studio One. We all have heard of it.
I got the Blu-ray reissues,
Yeah.
man, for sure.
But it's had 7 seasons, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think it had 9. But this was a show that was on in the 1950s, and it was basically one episode was a 1-hour drama. And sometimes the dramas were long enough that they had to make them into 2. And they covered like a lot of plays, like 12 Angry Men, and historical plays, things.
Boring crap. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Like old Grecian
hey, now.
tomes.
Hey, yeah.
So the funny thing about this, though, is the episode that Jason Robart was in was an episode that starred Art Carney as Horace Ford. And it was called The Incredible World of Horace Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later, this was remade into a Twilight Zone episode of the exact same name of the exact same story.
Oh, wow.
It's about a guy who lives in his past, and he remembers his childhood much cheerier than it actually turns out to be.
Yeah.
And so it's Twilight Zone season 4, episode 15, 1963.
That's cool.
The reason that matters is because season 4 was the only season of the Twilight Zone that converted to 51-minute episodes. So they were able to like pull out these dramas much longer. I didn't prefer it.
No, same.
Yes. But yeah, I thought that was a very interesting thing that they remade an entire story for Twilight Zone from another show.
Yeah, that's cool.
Never heard of that. This is a piece that you would put in that I found absolutely fascinating. We were talking about the bartender, Ed.
Yeah, and I don't like it, but I feel like it's appropriate. Not appropriate. We need to.
I'll tell you what.
It needs to be addressed.
Yes, and this feels exactly like something you would bring to the table.
Yeah.
This feels very Jason.
The dark, nasty
stuff. The dark side of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, but the bartender, Ed, was played by a real-life amputee, James Stacy. In 1973, Stacy was hit by a drunk driver while riding his motorcycle, resulting in his left leg being severed. His left arm, nearly severed in the accident, was later amputated at the hospital. Oof. God, you hate to see.
Dude.
Yeah. It's just nasty. And his girlfriend died in the crash. And he returned to acting in 1975 before retiring in 1992.
Look, and I'll be honest with you, 2 years does not seem like a long enough time to get over your girlfriend dying, you almost dying, losing 2 limbs, It just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't make sense.
No, and I don't know. I mean, it might be one of those things where at the time he was not in a great position monetarily wise. You know, he's
especially
got
after that
hospital bills.
bill. Yeah. Cost an arm and a leg to go there. Sorry, folks.
The Buena Vista Boys are not associated anyway with any of the things Jason just said.
Yeah.
So, my thing though is, yes, that is a short period of time, but the fact that he was able to get back into acting without an arm and without a leg so quickly.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the fact that I don't know how many things he was in, but apparently he retired in 1992. That's still a pretty big run for a amputee.
Doing stuff
in Hollywood.
Man, for sure. Yeah. For anybody. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's because Hollywood has not been the most friendly to amputee inclusivity in a natural way.
Of course not. Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially even by 1992.
No.
There is a gimmick involved in whatever it is. It can't just be a person.
Right. For sure. Well, and by the way, anybody who was offended by my arm and a leg comment, just wait. Just wait for the rest of this segment.
Yes. Yeah, hold all your judgment. So, in November 1995, Stacy pleaded no contest to a charge of having inappropriate contact with a minor.
Yes. And we're leaving it at that. We cleaned it up. We leaving it at that. You can look it up for yourself.
Yeah. Ooh, on December 7th, 1995, he failed to appear for sentencing in Ventura County Superior Court and was arrested the next day in Honolulu, Hawaii Hospital after he fled California.
Which I mean, honestly, yeah.
Who's making these phone calls like to find this guy? Because it's the next day. Somebody's on the phone.
He's on a
to
plane.
Honolulu.
Yeah.
That's wild. No, he attempted suicide by jumping off a cliff. After recovering, he waived extradition and returned to California. On March 5th, 1996, he received a 6-year prison sentence. Oof.
I mean, but also honestly, if you're gonna jump off a cliff to end it, might as well be in Honolulu. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, their cliffs are beautiful.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like.
But it's also the problem is that a lot of people go there to cliff dive.
Sure.
Very few people hit rock. Like
yes.
There's a lot of ocean there.
Yeah, there
so
is.
I don't know.
He's a bad aim.
Yes, clearly. But anyway, he's out and
he passed away.
Hopping around.
Yeah, he passed away. He's gone.
Oh, did he? Oh, is he gone?
Yeah, I didn't put it in there, but yeah, it was something like he was at like a doctor's office and got like something for anaphylactic shock or antihistamine, something like that, and like it didn't go over well, and he passed away. Yeah.
God damn. Well,
I mean, honestly,
it's what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, good tidbit though. Stacy is portrayed by Timothy Olyphant in the Stacy is portrayed by Timothy Olyphant in the 2019 Quentin Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt.
So, two things. Number one, I love Timothy Olyphant. That dude is amazing. Number two, that movie sucked on wheels, dude. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won a bunch of awards. It was trash. It was boring. It was shot well, like the color was good, but it was just, I did not enjoy nor appreciate it. I thought it was terrible.
I have not seen it yet. And
God.
there are some scenes that I want to watch in particular, but it just, I don't know, it wasn't enough to really get me in. Like, I think the trailers were decent for it. Like they did a pretty good job of like sort of making it funny, making it engaging.
Sure.
But I'm just like, I just wasn't interested. I don't know.
Yeah. That was the other thing. I wasn't interested, but there were some parts, but that were good, but it was not, I don't know. I didn't really think it lived up to the excitement and the hype that people gave it.
And I'm a Quentin Tarantino fan. Like I like Tarantino stuff for the most part. Like, I think sometimes he'll make something and it'll be cool, but then I think people give it more coolness than maybe it deserves.
So overhyped, dude. Yeah, for sure.
So, like I said earlier, there was a precursor to the original novel. And the precursor to Something Wicked This Way Comes was a short story that I'd actually really like to read now called The Black Ferris. It was written by Ray Bradbury and it appeared in Weird Tales, May 1948. Remember when you could have an entire story just appear in a magazine?
Oh yeah, man.
Okay.
Sure. That's how you used to be able to get started. Submit your short stories to magazines and hopefully they get published. Yeah.
So rad. So in this, it sees a character named Hank taking his boyhood friend Peter to a carnival to show him a supernatural event involving the owner, Mr. Koger. Oh, interesting. Mr. Koger, Mr. Koger.
Yeah, right.
Apparently, there is something that actually happened in Ray Bradbury's actual life that made him even write this story, where he'd gone to a carnival and he'd seen a gentleman named Mr. Electro.
Okay.
And yeah, and
Sounds cool.
I think Mr. Electro was a guy who could like take lightning. You know how they do that trick back in the day?
Mm.
And so that's how he kind of got this idea in his head. Oh, and Mr. Electro said to Ray Bradbury specifically, as a 12-year-old child in Waukegan, Illinois, you will live forever. He imbued him with the power of living forever.
Yeah, wow.
And he said it was at that moment that he became totally obsessed with the idea of a life lived forever.
Sure, same,
and
dude.
Yeah. And so that sort of started his path of like writing science fiction and kind of exploring these different ideas.
Love it.
Yeah, it's cool. So Something Wicked This Way Comes, I found out, was actually the second book in a Ray Bradbury Greentown trilogy. These books really don't have anything to do with each other. Like the characters aren't the same, but they all appear in Greentown.
Okay.
So the first book is called Dandelion Wine. It takes place in the summer, and it's a book about kids having summer lives. As he used to write a lot about childhood nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And then Something Wicked This Way Comes, he drops that. It has nothing to do with Dandelion Wine at all. It takes place in the same town. And then he wrote a book, God, like in 2006, like so many years later. And it is a sequel of some sort to Dandelion Wine called Farewell Summer. So this trilogy spans a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ray Bradbury fans, which I am a fan of, this might be really cool to check out.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I actually am a fan of his writing. Sometimes, though, I feel, and maybe other people who listen might realize this, he almost writes from a place where he knows what he's talking about, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't always bring you along with what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
Or like the characters and where they stand in the world. Like how in this movie, the father stands up and he says, "Oh, you're the autumn people." What the fuck are the autumn people?
Yeah, because the only time he mentions it was when he's reading from his dad's diary that's in the library somehow.
And he called that the Autumn Carnival. And that's just a carnival that comes in autumn.
Look, everyone is just super poetic.
Yeah.
That's all.
And so it's like, that's a lot of his writing, is that he kind of has these things where he knows what he's saying. And he doesn't know that maybe we don't know what he's saying.
Right.
Okay, I want to close out with this. This has been a great show. I've loved talking about this. But I wanted to leave you with something that I thought was interesting, because I didn't know how prevalent actual lightning rod salesmen were in real life.
Okay.
You know,
I'm assuming
like,
not at all.
I'm
assuming it was a gimmick.
They were. Lightning rod salesmen were not only real, but there were enough of them that you had to be warned about scams of lightning rod salesmen.
God. Or are they the modern day version of the people who will wash your windshield and then demand payment?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
So this is great, and you're going to love how far back this goes. So this is Nema County Granger of Auburn, and this is in Nebraska. So
okay,
this is I should have started with that. So the Nema County Granger of Auburn which is a newspaper in Nebraska.
Okay.
There's an article from August 24th, 1883. It warned readers, "We are informed that some lightning rod men have been playing tricks upon some farmers in this county and are probably still at work. The work to which our attention was called was done in this way. One man went to a farmer's house and tried to sell him a lightning rod. The farmer did not want to buy. The man says he wants to put the rod on the farmer's house as an advertisement, and it shall not cost the farmer over $15 or $17 at the outside. And he wishes to take photographs of the house and will photograph the whole family. He is doing this work for mere nothing and says, just as an advertisement. Finally, the farmer consents and signs a contract without reading it, having in his mind only an expense of $17.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't go for that?
Right.
This feels very solar panel.
Yes.
Get these guys all the time. The next day comes. The men who are to put up the rod, they go about their work, putting rods all over the house. And when the work is completed, the farmer is presented with a bill of $90 or $100 more or less, as the case may be. I love that. $100 more or less, as the case may be. We needed that word count.
Yes.
The farmer says, why I was to pay $17 and photographs were to be taken. The men reply that they know nothing of any such agreement and produce the contract signed by the farmer, by which he ordered and agreed to pay for the amount of work that they had done. The farmer now, for the first time, looks at the duplicate and he holds, Farmer now, for the first time, looks at the duplicate that he holds and plainly sees that the contract he signed was not at all the verbal agreement.
Yeah, that's a scam that still happens. I mean, obviously not lightning rods, but like, yeah, we'll do this and we'll get started. And it's like, well, I don't know that person. I don't know. Right? I don't know who that company. I don't know. We're a third party, so you got to pay it or we're taking it to court.
You got to take it up with the guy that you made the contract with.
That's crazy.
Okay, we're just here. But yeah, so I love that lightning rod salesmen are real. And you know, when you look at something like this, you got to say, hey, Tom Fury sold his lightning rod for like a crumpled $1.25.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great guy. What
nice
a mensch.
Dude. And saved the world.
Yes. And then used one of those as a deadly piece of weaponry.
Yeah. Well, very good, Matt. That was some good facts.
That was fun.
Yeah. You know, sometimes when we do these shows, we find connections to Disneyland or the parks and the movies, and they kind of tie in usually with the parks trying to do promotion. But did you know, Matt, you are an avid Disneyland park goer, that there is a Ray Bradbury tree in Frontierland in Disneyland? Have you seen this tree?
Yes, the Halloween tree.
The Halloween tree, yes. And it was named after a Ray Bradbury novel from 1972 called The Halloween Tree. And apparently Ray Bradbury and Walt Disney were friends. They were friends. They collaborated on a couple of projects, not only Something Wicked This Way Comes, but apparently Spaceship Earth at Epcot, Ray Bradbury was involved in a little bit. Nice. He wrote a script for a movie called The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit in 1999.
Yes. I remember The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit.
Well, there you go,
saw
man.
This movie.
Yeah. So anyway, in 2007, apparently someone at the parks thought it would be a great idea to dedicate the Halloween tree. And in case you don't know, the Halloween tree is they hang pumpkins in the autumn, in the Halloween time, and it's this tree in front of it's in
kind of near the shooting gallery.
Yeah, you can't miss it. It's right across the street from the shooting gallery. And this is like all the little pumpkins, you know, with Sharpie drawn on and stuff like that. It's cute, and that's the Halloween tree. So Ray Bradbury living forever once again.
Yes.
In
I know.
In Disneyland.
Mr. Electro was right.
Yes.
No, and what I love about that tree too, and I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to put it in my notes.
Yeah.
Is that it is decorated so elegantly and it has its own sort of separate look from everything else.
Yeah.
At that time.
It's actually very non-Disney to do that.
Yeah.
It's not
unique.
cohesive at all.
Yeah.
I like it, though. It's great. All right, everybody. We are going to get out of here on our inaugural season 2, episode 1. Back at it at the Buena Vista Boys. We appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. We have a lot of really great and semi-modern movies, coming up here. So keep in mind, Buena Vista was distributing movies all through 2006. So we're going to be jumping into those waters here and there. So it should be a lot of fun. The stories should get a little tighter as we kind of progress to, through the age of movies and television. And it'll be a good time. So if you want to find out more about any of the podcasts we have on the Ears Up Network, you can go to earsup-podcast.com. And then, Matt, where can people find out more about you and your podcast?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking. My podcast I do with my friend Andy, and it is called Shelter from Oblivion. And we actually have a couple of bangers coming out pretty soon. We're about to drop an episode called The Toys That Got Away. Where we talk about toys that we always wanted our whole lives and we never got them. Go over the history of those toys and some alternative toys that your grandma would buy you that you didn't really want.
Yes.
But, and you can find us on Instagram at shelter.from.oblivion. And I hope to see you over there because we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun at both places. I'm very excited to be on these shows. Excellent.
Very good. All right, everybody. Thank you very much once again for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you later.
Rolled in the plump, smooth thighs of Cuban ladies.